Alright guys, TacticalRab back again today. I hope you're all doing well and enjoying your day so far, and today is Championship Sunday of the Super Week, but the drama does not just stop there. Yesterday we talked about the whole Cellium snaking debacle, which continued into the early hours of the morning, but also SlasheR yesterday talking about the potential Adderall usage within the CDL. Not a topic we touch on too often here on the channel, but when we do, when one of the top tier professional players is effectively calling out openly PED use on the timeline, well, it's certainly something we're going to have to get into today. Intrigued to hear your thoughts in the comment section below. Like if you guys enjoyed the video, subscribe if you are new as always, I'd greatly appreciate it. It really helps out the channel. Thank you very much indeed for doing that. Let's get into things then. This first of all from Clayster right here, or from the subliners. They say, please COD League, do not make Clayster sell his cards on Pokemon Day. Please Activision, don't fine Clayster. They come up with like a fake fine letter where he has to pay $25,000 or something for holding up his middle finger on stream. Well, who knows how much the fine will actually be, if there is one at all. Speaking of fines, we talked yesterday about Crimsix, of course, kind of calling out the league on stream. He talks right here about the Skr song and says it's not necessarily his favourite at the present time. And well, I talked about this a couple of days ago on the channel, and the general consensus in the comments seemed to be that Skr is the way to go. It's the best song of all time. And okay, like, I don't mind it. It's not the absolute worst thing in the world, for my opinion at the very least. But having it after every single map is completely obnoxious, in my opinion. And after a few months' time, I wonder if your guys' opinion, who you believe that in the comment section below, will stay the same. Maybe you're fully on the bandwagon. Leave a Skr down below if you're still fully on the Skr bandwagon, because, like, well, maybe that's totally fair enough, and I'm completely in the wrong here. As Crimsix says also, weight off my shoulders, home renovations completed. You can see the number plate right here is 0.2, and well, Octane was kind of clowning in the replies. Is the license plate a reference to your KD versus Clayster? No, that was my KD Sunday at Champs. You see, as time progresses, it slowly keeps getting lower and lower. So Champs in Black Ops 4 right on that OpTic gaming squad at the time. This was entertaining as well. The drama didn't stop on the timeline yesterday. Skrapz says that's a tough one to swallow after their defeat, of course, Paris versus Atlanta FaZe yesterday, and that crazy series we talked about. Back to the grinder, we keep getting better. So Victoria, his mother, comes back and says, wow, unreal that son. Be proud. I cannot watch that Clint, that being Maven, of course. Cast no more though. All one-sided him. FaZe all the way. Annoying listening to him. It's just hilarious stuff. Maven comes back and says, like, I was gassing the hell out of the boys when they were frying, and I did the same thing when FaZe was. Sorry I didn't hype up Legion as much when they weren't making the plays. Have a wonderful day, and he's just already having a wonderful day. Just watch my boy go off a few times. Enjoy yours. Absolutely superb stuff. Waskin says, Mumsy hopped on the Bluebird, started dishing out the smoke. Let me go log her off real quick. So this was the main thing we discussed yesterday, right? We went from crucifying people for snaking to the entire league being okay with it. Clay then comes back and says, still mind-blowing that certain individuals or teams don't care and just do this anyway. And this is kind of the discussion with Cellium. Like, everyone knows Cellium's a disgusting player and is clearly phenomenal at the game, but he just, like, abuses this movement mechanic in the game on a regular basis, which some pros think that he shouldn't necessarily do, and it kind of, maybe you could argue it lowers other players to his level, in the sense that then Paris was snaking a lot in that series as well, because, well, if you can't beat them, join them, I suppose. Maybe Cellium's just like, as we said yesterday, like, you could do it too, right? Yeah, it's not my fault that the game is broken in this sense. And as Joey says right here, Paris on every heady after, Simp got that 1v3, and after that they were definitely not letting that one happen again. And Fire tweeted about it as well, so Zuma was kind of saying, look, like, what do you expect Cellium to do at the end of the day? Like, if he stops snaking, someone at some point is going to snake him, then he's going to start doing it back again. And Fire, people were talking about, okay, Fire was snaking as well. Then he comes out and says, look, that's what I'm saying. If I get snaked, I'm going to do it back. I am playing Cellium at the end of the day. If you guys aren't familiar with snaking, effectively you just crouch up and down behind a head glitch, makes it very difficult to kill you, especially with how straight the XM4 shoots in this game. You can very quickly just beam someone if you're popping up and down behind a heady. They can really not do too much about it if you're a good player abusing this kind of movement mechanic in the game, which is kind of frowned upon in the professional scene. So this is what also happened yesterday then. So SlasheR says in reply, this is why the 2016-ish COD community would never have let that slide. Now what is called. You guys might remember way back in, it was Infinite Warfare Stage 1 playoffs, where Splice won the only ever an international European chip that was in North America. They won a championship way back in Modern Warfare 3. I think it was EGL 8 or something, a European team won. But this was the only championship a European team has won in the North American region for, well, a long time, I suppose, at least in the modern era. So this is way back in 2017 Stage 1 playoffs. There was one map in particular which I think was called Scourge, which, well, it would just get abused all the time off every single head glitch. People would just be snaking it left, right, and center. And SlasheR was kind of saying at the time, it was pretty well frowned upon. Everyone was like, okay, the Splice are just completely snaking. And well, Luminosity kind of had to do it too to compete with them. Still lost that series, and then they went on to win Anaheim the very next turn. But SlasheR's like, look, back in the day, we didn't really let that slide. Nowadays, apparently, it's cool to do so. And a couple of deleted tweets in reply right here, but I managed to capture them, thankfully. So Madcat says, screw all of that, right? Like, screw all the competitive integrity stuff, like trying to be an upstanding gentleman. We took a chip snaking, get it how you can, bro. So Mac is saying, we do what we can to just get over the line in that series, winning a series on the biggest stage. You can't really go wrong, and if snaking is the way we had to do it, then that's what we were going to have to do. But SlasheR comes back and kind of disagrees in the reply. This is the same mentality that leads to people taking 60 megs of candy for matches. Now, candy, of course, referring to Adderall. Now, this is clearly a massive issue within the gaming scene, not really talked about too often. You guys might know that Nick Maniac Kirshner, of course, recently come back to prominence, I suppose. I think he was like 60 days sober or something, so huge congratulations to him for getting clean, because this is not an easy thing to deal with. And I think he was talking about on the Flycast the fact that he'd been on like Adderall, like crazy amounts of Addy, like not his entire life from like when he was born, but since his early Halo days competing in these events, he was always completely addied up for these events, and it's clearly a thing that a lot of COD players have done over time. And honestly, something that now we're in an online environment is maybe more difficult to enforce. I don't really know. It's tough to say. Yes, you do have to have the cameras on and such, so you can kind of look at some people and think, is this guy on something? Because sometimes you do definitely look at a camera and think, maybe something's going on here. But at a live event, maybe it's, I guess maybe it's more difficult to get away with it in the sense, you can certainly get away with it at live events, don't get me wrong, but at the same time, there's a little bit more risk maybe involved. Maybe they might ask you for an interview or something, or maybe they come up to you, people after the fact, and they can kind of see that something's a little bit jittery or zombie-like with how you're moving around. And SlasheR has been one of the proponents really for a number of years, the fact that, we need to deal with this Adderall problem within the game. He ended up deleting this tweet, of course, but this is a pathetic, whatever it takes attitude, which leads to people doing Adderall and such to try and get a competitive advantage. The idea of Adderall is, it increases your ability to focus or to concentrate to a degree. It's used as medication also for ADHD, so I think that's attention deficit hyperactivity disorder. I think Priestahh has this actually, so he gets kind of prescribed it. But to my understanding, it's relatively easy to get prescribed it in the States. Not really sure, but people certainly get a hold of it. They've used it for gaming events since pretty much the beginning of time. And, now we're on an online environment where it's maybe a little bit more difficult to enforce. You could argue that a lot of the league are doing this in the comfort of their own homes to try and get a competitive advantage. Would I say that's unlikely? I wouldn't say that at all, as SlasheR's been one of the biggest proponents of, trying to get rid of it somehow over the last several years, but now in this online environment, drug testing is effectively impossible. So, I don't know, when we get back to LAN, maybe that's something the league will implement. I think it's something they definitely need to look to doing, and as well, Octane says right here, players do everything to get better without actually being better at the game nowadays. So, really interesting stuff. We saw this a few days ago as well from Assault. You definitely ate an extra Skittle today. Some people are looking at this and thinking he was calling a seam out for basically abusing Addy in the same way that Slash is referring to it as candy. Supposedly it seemed like he eats like Skittles and sweets and candy and stuff during his actual game, so I think that's what Assault was referring to right here if you guys saw this. This also was a bit of drama on the timeline yesterday, just moving on from that. So after Cellium and the Los Angeles Guerrillas took down Toronto Ultra and Methods, as he says at Methods, I think it is time, brother. Silly702.com/coaching can definitely get you more than 2 rounds in 2 maps. Methods says GG's well played. This is a reference to this way back in December. Silly is charging $75 for coaching, so whoever buys that from him, give me $250 and I'll help you unlearn whatever it is that he teaches you. And Silly came back at the time and basically roasting him on the timeline, and he remembered this clearly a few months later for when he actually beat him in a pretty important series, Los Angeles Guerrillas, to take that. Speaking then, of course, of important series, what exactly are we going to be seeing for the rest of the day? So these are the 3 series coming up. It's relatively clear-cut in what these series mean. If New York win, we'll look at exactly what the scenarios look like in a second, but if New York win, because they hold the tiebreaker over Minnesota by 3-0ing them a couple of days ago, then New York will get the 3rd seed, that being winners bracket for Group, I think they're in Group A. Then in Group B, OpTic versus Mutineers. This is a pretty big matchup as well, because if OpTic win, they're guaranteed 2nd seed no matter what. But if Mutineers win, then actually Paris get the 3rd seed. If Mutineers lose, then it's actually Los Angeles Guerrillas that get the 3rd seed. We'll talk about exactly how that works in just a second here. Then we've got Empire versus Thieves. This is the final match of the day. This is going to be an absolute banger, I think. This is for the number 1 seed in Group A. If Thieves win this, they go 5-0. If Dallas Empire win this, they're 4-1, but they beat LA Thieves in the tiebreaker and take the number 1 seed, which gives them a bye in that winners bracket, which of course is pretty important, meaning you only have to win 3 series to win the entirety of the major. So these are the implications at the present time. If New York beats Seattle, as we're expecting them to, they get top 3. Then down here is pretty interesting, right? So effectively right now, Paris Legion and LAG are tied, but LAG take it because they have the head-to-head and beat Paris Legion 3-2 right at the start of this stage. So currently, if Chicago beat Florida, then LAG will get that number 3 spot. But if Florida beats Chicago by whatever map count they like, because Florida's map count is something like 5-0 in 10 right now. So even if they 3-0 Chicago, they'll have a map count of 8 in 10, and that's not good enough compared to Paris's map count of 10 and 11 right now. And well, therefore, you look at it from that perspective. Effectively, if Florida win, it's a 3-way tie in that group, but Paris have the best map count overall. Therefore, they would win the 3-way tiebreak. Whereas if Florida lose, then Los Angeles Guerrillas win the 2-way tiebreak. So pretty interesting stuff. I imagine Chicago are going to win. I imagine New York are going to win because there's really not too much for Florida to play for. They're effectively just playing for pride, and yeah, their results do have an impact also on what the bracket is going to look like. And well, then you've got the New York match, but certainly the Dallas Empire LA Thieves one is going to be very exciting from my perspective. Thought this was interesting just to finish off the video as well. 3 40 bombs so far this season from Gunless, Clayster, and today again from Pants, who will drop the first 50 of the season. So yeah, big question mark for you guys. I'm sure there's going to be a 50 at some point. Where will it be? Last season it was Simp on Azir, Cave of all things, and certainly there's a number of players looking to get their name on the board for the first 50 bomb of Call of Duty Black Ops Cold War. Intrigued to hear your thoughts on all this stuff in the comment section below. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. If you did enjoy it, I'd greatly appreciate a like on the video. It really helps out the YouTube because I know you enjoyed this content. Other people like you may enjoy this content as well, and I'll grow the competitive Call of Duty community. Thank you for watching as always. Take care, and I will see you next time.
Alright, you guys ready? You guys ready for the song? Ready? You ready? Or you? Let's get it. Skrapz! Skrapz! Holy shit, this song sucks, bro. God damn, dude. God damn, bro. Holy shit. I think I need a COVID test after hearing this over and over and over and over again, bro. God, dude.